Good afternoon. Welcome back to Milipol 2015. I'm Dan Kazita, and this afternoon's talk show subject is 112 call centers, emergency communication, and crisis management. It's a very broad subject, but hopefully we'll be able to lend some structure to the discussion. I have 4 participants on the panel with me today, and I'll ask each of them to give a brief introduction of who they are and what they do and what their company is. I'll start with Tal. Tal?
Hello, my name is Tal. I'm Tal Bauer. I'm the CEO of Octopus. It's like a 911 software enabling connectivity in safe cities, enabling total connectivity.
Alain?
Hello, I'm Alain Soulier. I'm Director of Innovation at D'Everywhere. D'Everywhere is a French SME providing here 2 main lines of products. The first one is a location-based service for law enforcement with non-cooperative geolocation. And we present here a second line, a new line for us. It's focused on civil security with a solution about public warning and information for the population. And another one, we're working on it too. It's about 112 services for the people.
Thank you. Jean-Paul?
My name is Jean-Paul Moron. I am the managing director of a company named Tech1. We are a software editor, and we do some command and control application and crisis management system.
Thank you. And Christian?
I'm the Délégué Général of the French High Committee for Civil Defense, so I'm not industrial like our friends here today, but we have a good experience of what is working, what is not working, and we have made a couple of research on those issues, broad issues between day-to-day operation to crisis management and everything between. And we have just in front of you of us a broad landscape of innovation and new ways of doing things, I believe. So we will be able to discuss that maybe.
Okay, thank you, Christian. I think the first thing we need to say is that 112 or 999 or 911, depending on what it's called in different countries around the world, is multidisciplinary. In various countries, it can range from fire to rescue to police, emergency medical and ambulance services. In some countries, Coast Guard services. Even with police services, many countries have a variety of police services, whether it's the police, municipal or state police, or highway police, or gendarmerie, or carabinieri, or guardia civil. There's a wide variety of services that have to rely on. So that's part of the background. The other thing is that there is a wide range of activity that goes on a 112 system. It ranges from a very quiet middle of the afternoon on a Tuesday where not so much is happening, all the way to September the 11th or the 7th of July or the 13th of November, where everything is happening and all the services are strained. So solutions, technologies, products, services have to accommodate a range of these things. So one of the first things I want to ask is, what can you gentlemen tell me about the scalability of what you do? How does it expand from being slow and small to being fast and big? If one of you wants to go first with that.
Yeah.
Tal?
Yeah, first of all, it depends, of course, regarding what you have to know, what kind of information you need in crisis like this, what your ability to be connected to the forces on the ground, and the communication to get to your control and command, visual and audio, and how can you respond and communicate not just with your first responders, but with people that are bystanders and you want to take them away from those occasions. Our solution in that fashion was to build a SIM, a system that enables you to connect to all the city application, cameras, sensors, and so, and to connect a mobile application as well, to be communicating with a two-way communication between the first responders, and to have an app even for residents in order if something happens that they can communicate with the control and command and to get communication where to stay off and so and so. So it's really how to handle all this operation at once, getting all the data, analyze it, and trying to communicate with all the grounds in order to have first response and to have it in quick times in order to save lives.
Jean-Paul.
We also build application with large scalability. For instance, we delivered the product for French gendarmerie, and they normally run day-to-day 6,000 workstations connected to a pool of servers. And during terrorist attack last January, the number of workstations increased up to 30,000. So now we have to install for them software which will handle up to 50,000 mobiles. That means the escalation could be up to 80,000 different items to be connected and application service.
All right. And Alain,
The products we are currently providing
Yeah.
are designed under the funded project of a European community project.
okay.
It was after the natural disaster in the US, Sandy, storm and so on. European communities said we will have to think about the use of social networks, the use of new technology of information to provide information instantaneously to the people and to collect information from the people to help them. So the first product we have built, it's a solution to warn the people, to alert them. We are able today to warn million people in a second. For example, this week with a terrorist attack in Paris, we will be able to give in 5 seconds a warning to all the population using a simple smartphone. These new technologies are the future in alerting the people because they are very low cost and very efficient to reach everywhere in the world, every kind of people with a simple smartphone at the future. In the same way for the 112, this smartphone equipped with an application designed especially to give the correct location of the citizen using the smartphone and a minimum set of personal data to help the first responder to provide the good services to the guy. It's a new solution, very efficient to get the good service in a second.
All right, thank you. One of the issues with 112 services is that it has really evolved. In the old days, it was somebody calling on a telephone, dialing a telephone, talking over a copper piece of wire to somebody else on a telephone, who in turn would dispatch an emergency service, maybe by telephone, maybe by radio. It was voice traffic. It was very simple. It was duplex communication, very low baud, really. Now we have the issue of we can push a lot of information up from the level of the citizen, but also that call center has to manage a lot of information, but also dispatchers, the people working the centers, have the possibility to put a lot of information back down. In many places, a lot of emergency medical and first aid information is passed back down to the person calling to help assess the problem at the scene. But the advent of smartphones, which the majority of people now have, has increased both the complexity of the operation, but also increased the ability to have information flowing both ways. So I was wondering perhaps maybe if you could talk a little bit about things that we need to be thinking about in the future to better use the capabilities that we all have. Yeah, Christian.
I think what you point out is really the issue today. We have on one hand some sophisticated editors, software. We have the knowledge of what we would like to do, but the issue is that we have a certain organization of our operation centers, which is different from country to country. If you take the US, for instance, you have the 911, and after you get the fire, the police, the EMS. If you go to France, you still have virtual 112, but finally the location of the operation center are different, services are different, and so on. So we first need to go more and more on this virtualization aspect and go fast from the information to the right services. So that's the first place. But as we say with Alain, the issue is that these small things change everything, because it's make the citizen at the same time an emitter of distress and alert, but also a very good information system as well.
Yes.
And also a receiver of information. Because today when we take the large events like we were speaking about the terrorist attack, we receive the information by the media, not yet by the authorities. And that is a big issue, that the authorities have to take advantage of those technology and to include those technology as a broad approach in their operation center. But that means also that they have to change their mind of to to use the way how to operate those concepts and those doctrine, and that is not yet. It's still very conservative.
Exactly.
And
A couple of challenges that we had
Yeah.
a chance because we are working with the Israeli government. Okay, so there are a couple of challenges with the technology. First of all, that nobody can hack to the technology because he can see the layout of where the security forces and so on. So this
Yes.
is one aspect. Second aspect, that the people that are dialing or pushing the button and communicating with the controller and command, they are not people that want to harm you, to give you an event somewhere else, and you have it elsewhere to distress or disperse the operation. So you have to really detect if this is the person, if this is UDID of the machine, if it's from the right cellular area, if it's connected maybe to the population of really to know that this person that communicated to the control center is really him. So we have dealt with this regarding the technology that the phone allow us to detect that you are really the person that calls us, that we have all your details coming up on the screen to understand who is the person that we are talking to, and that we see that we have passed all the hacking tests of the government to see that nobody can hack to the system in order to detect where are your local forces. It's handling big data. In the end, you are getting lots of alerts if you're taking the events that were in Paris. I'm sure there would be at least 100 calls from the same area, how you're doing the hierarchy, the priority. Other thing is locating the nearest first responders. This is another thing that the system already does. It's detecting the right person or right security force in order to go there, enabling the person from the ground to send video. So you have here really big challenges dealing with data flow and how to work it.
Yes. I mean,
There is also something to add. There are some countries, like for instance in England now, British Telecom is working with cell phone manufacturers, and they try to push to get mandatory the way they can send the GPS data to the emergency number or included with the emergency number. It's not with all manufacturers, but we know that's going forward. And it could be something very important inside the dispatch and the call-taking room.
I mean, for example, I'll give you an example out of my own personal experience. I saw a teenage boy in London, where I live, stealing a bicycle. And so I'm on the phone to the police describing this boy, describing his location. I would very much actually like to be able to take a photo of him and send it to the police. Can I do that? No. You know,
Very soon,
yeah.
very soon, in fact.
Yes.
Everywhere we are working on
Yes.
this solution about the 112 services. It's not only 112
Yeah.
to ask for help.
Yes.
We provide some side services like video, like photo, so you
Yeah.
could send
Well,
a call to the police,
yes.
then your location will be sent to the police, and you can send a photo and video. It's very easy.
Exactly.
But the point more important, as Christian said a few minutes ago, it's the capacity to handle this with all kind of mobile, all kind of people, Chinese people in Paris, Englishmen, so on.
multi-language, because the
Multi-language,
challenge
yes.
is very big when you see that 19 nationalities were involved
Yes.
as victims of those terrible
Yes.
events,
Yeah.
terrific event. I mean, you see that you have to be able in a very large urban areas to
Yes.
speak in many languages, immediately be able to send on mobile phone, and the mobile can send you the right languages directly. So all those things exist, but it must be put on the table by the authorities.
Exactly.
Another thing that we have done is we are working as a SIM system that's connected to all the cameras in the city. So we're taking London, for instance, when you are pushing a distress button, so we know your location and we know the GS location of the camera. So it's not just getting the information from the phone, it's getting from the dedicated cameras coverage that you have in the area and detecting what's going on to see if this event that I'm going to send a police car or is I'm just going to talk to him, alert him what to do. So this is another aspect. You just not just dealing with the phone and application, it's controlling all the sensors of the city, okay, connected to the same city, enabling you to detect the event and the right assets that you have, their cameras and so, and the right responders in order to really react in a quick way.
All right. All very good points. I wanted to touch upon the multi-service nature of 112 centers and emergency communications, in that the problem faced by the emergency medical dispatcher who deals with the ambulance service has fundamentally different requirements and issues to that of the fire brigade who's going to respond to a fire or a car accident. And that in turn is different than the requirements from the police and the security forces who have other things that they have to worry about. So how do we integrate all of these really?
We developed a multi-service solution, and this multi-service solution is based on user profiles and on organization profiles. So we can, they can decide what can be shared and what cannot be shared. Like for instance, we speak about medical, we don't give the name of the patient, we don't give the disease or something like this, but we share information according to the needs to handle this incident in the best way.
Okay.
I concur. You have to work in a state level in order to have really a file of the person when it's connected to the system and he's a resident and you have a file on him. And he's working with the CRM. How many events were with this person? Is it a person that will do it just to hassle the police? So it's have to be very correlated with databases of the certain company, certain country. Second of all, regarding the module of how you're dealing 911, I think in the US, they're doing it right from my point of view, because when you are calling as an operator, you don't know if it's fire, if it's somebody starting to stab you. So it depends on what the person now reports. Then I have to send him the right response. I will send you an ambulance if now you have a heart attack. Okay, I will send you security forces if you are reporting now on a crime.
Yes.
Or I will send the bomb squad if I'm reporting. So you really have to have one control and command with one installation, one application, and the ability to decide very quickly what will be the best response for this call.
All right. Well, one thing I want to ask, I've asked this for each of the panel discussions I've hosted so far. For each of you, what are the big barriers and obstacles that keep you from progressing even further with the work that you're doing? We all have barriers in our work. We all come with something that's difficult that keeps us from our ultimate success. For each of you, what is the barrier?
Yeah, I can. It's a discussion that I had with many first responders. In fact, you have two ways. First of all, we have the police who will say it's sensitive case, so we cannot share the information with our friends, so I cannot get the fireman behind me. The medical doctors will say, oh, it's medical secret, you know, I cannot share with the police because it's, you know. And so these kind of things, we feel it very strongly when we speak about common platform. But we need to go away from that. I mean, we need to have common platform. This has been existing. That doesn't mean that it doesn't preclude to have some physical separation between the different things and make some one or two closed areas when something very sensitive is coming. But the platform, the location of the platform, the capability to be discussing between them first when you have a complex situation is a key point. So have people disperse and so on. It's not a good solution to my point of view. In France, couple of departments have done joint platform, but very few. We have mental resistance by the first responders based on the classical way. But we need to force those and it's really a challenge, but we need to force them to go. And it's a second point, it's money.
Yes.
I mean, it's money because this technology must bring some saving on one end. And those savings are by putting the platform together.
Yes.
So I mean, it's a trade-off situation. And if we want to integrate new technology, especially in the warning of population, exchanging with the population, because we don't use enough population sensors and population as a loudspeaker of the intent of the authorities. And this is a key point. So we need an authority who get enough power to say to the different services, it's like that. and we need to show from the industry side that it's a trade-off and it's a good solution because you go forward. But we still face some resistance. That's true in many countries.
It's more political than technical.
Yes, as often the case. Some barriers are educational, some barriers are technological, some barriers are policy and politics.
But we have technological barrier, and I just want to have your point of view on that as well, if I may, because the problem is the network. When you have a big event, and not for day-to-day operation, but for big events, you see the saturation of the network. And the priority calls, all those issues is something which has to be also done with the big telecommunication operators. And there is a big issue like that, which, from my point of view, is not seen at the right level at the time.
If we're talking about governments today, so they're investing more and more in cellular technology. It's going on in the third world. This is the best going technology out there. You can connect to anybody. Okay, even if it's in the jungle, you put a cellular antenna. So the world is going to cellular robustness and the ability to communicate with many people. If you have an event, also to communicate, this is the best way to do so. So we see that this technology is already starting to implement. We can see it even in bids that for cities, they demand an application to communicate with their forces and with their residents. So I think the technology regarding that is going that way. Governments are investing more in order to be robust in case of national disaster. Let's take an earthquake. The only way that you will have in order to communicate with the resident will be through this, because you won't have electricity. This will have 8 hours of electricity to communicate with the person. You can load it in his car. Okay, you won't have any landlines, so everything will erupt. So if you have cellular connectivity, you can still speak to the residents, tell them what to do, to get status from them. So I see it as something that's evolving in the world, in smart cities that are now giving Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi. This is another form of communication with smartphone. So I think the world is starting to evaluate those devices as for crisis management and security eventing.
You know, water, food, shelter, connectivity.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
All right. Do you have anything to add to that, Alan?
I agree with Christian. In France, we are currently working with governments to show them the performance of mobile platform. And as a private company, we have to be innovative and to give our time and energy to provide good solution, low-cost solution, open solution, to be interoperable with all guys here around the table. And I think in a few months, few years, it will be obvious to use this solution to make warning, to make emergency service around the smartphone.
All right. All right. Well, I thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Tal, Alan, Jean-Paul, Christian, thank you so much for joining us here at Milipol 2015. This concludes this particular discussion. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.